Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of The Broken Meeple. I'm Luke Hector, and if you like what you see, please remember, thumb up the video, consider subscribing, and of course comment about the game, or the video, or just anything in general, really. Let me know your thoughts. We'll get on to the review in just a sec, but first, a quick word from our sponsor. As a fellow gamer, you'll understand this is unacceptable. The solution? Head down to my new sponsor, KIENDA.co.uk. KIENDA stocks many of the hot new releases, as well as some old hidden gems. Free delivery on orders over £30, further discounts on bulk purchases, and even 5% of your spending refunded back to you as points to be used for further discounts down the line. If you use the referral link in the description below and sign up for a new account, you'll get 5% discount on your first order over £60. So let's make gaps in your collection a thing of the past. Get down to KIENDA and start saving today. Thank you for listening, and enjoy the rest of the video.
Get on with it.
So the tagline for this game, First Contact, a potential Codenames killer? Whew, that's a bold claim in itself. If you're not aware of what Codenames is, it's basically this little gateway party game that is taken like gaming by storm, effectively. It's got too many iterations, it has jumped the shark like you wouldn't believe, but you essentially had a grid of cards and a clue giver tried to give a clue about the words that they wanted the rest of their team to guess. First team to get all of theirs out wins. Very simple, light, but I have problems with it. So I was hoping that this one, First Contact, would take what effectively Codenames has and make it more interesting, maybe make it faster, or just at least make it more interactive and social. But the idea with First Contact from Cosmodrome Games is that you are essentially playing with two separate teams as well. You have aliens versus Earthlings. Well, let's say versus aliens and Earthlings. The idea is that the aliens have landed in Egypt and they're trying to get the humans to understand their language.
People of Earth, I am Lur of the planet Omicron Persei 8. Is this thing on?
You know, much like it has been sort of told in mythology. But what happens is that you have a codename selection of words on the board, and these represent the items that the aliens want the Earthlings to offer them. But like in Codenames, there's a little color grid behind their screen that says the items they actually want. But it's hard to get the communication right, because what the Earthlings have to do is try and figure out the alien language, decipher which words and symbols go together, and so that they can offer the items that the aliens want and generate the most benevolence tokens and win the game that way. There's essentially two winners, a single Earthling player and a single alien player, although technically they're pseudo working together in a sense. The Earthlings don't want to give too much information away to each other, but then by listening to what each other is saying, they are kind of working together to decipher this language and figuring out, well, based on what you said and what you're trying to do, I reckon that symbol must mean this then. But then the alien players still have to confer with each other going, right, well, he's selected those items, and what do you reckon that's going to be then? Do you reckon that the melon and the apple, and the tomato means round, or does it mean food? I'm not entirely sure. What do you reckon, buddy? But at the end of the day, the first alien player to get enough 3 or 5 benevolence tokens out, depending on the difficulty, wins. So it's very much a case of, yes, there are two separate teams, but there's one person from each team that wins. So to explain how those cards work in more detail, let's say I've got like coconut and catapult, leaf, leather ball. You've essentially got a 5x5 grid of these cards. What essentially a human player does is that they select up to 5 of these cards that link together to one of the words on their dry erase pad in such a way. So for example, long. Right, well let's see, I could find myself, dropping everything around here. Let's say I could find a stylus, that's pretty long, the knife's pretty long, the crocodile's pretty long, and maybe a tube, which is quite long, alright. So I'll select those cards, and the aliens have to look at their board and go, well, he selected that and that and that and that. I reckon he's saying long, but it could be tool, I don't know. And, they have to confer and make this stuff up.
Well, what is it, something you put in salad dressing?
Like you've ever seen a salad.
My weight is appropriate and attractive.
And basically it all comes down to how well you can figure out what the humans are basically saying versus how well the aliens interpret what the humans are saying. So there's definitely a lot of chances for things to go wrong. I mean, much like something like Telestrations, for example, the Chinese Whispers party game, where somebody might interpret it well, but then somebody gets the wrong idea and it goes completely out of control. This is kind of a similar thing, except more on a group setting. And that's kind of the crux of the whole game, really. It's very simple rules to teach, but it definitely is a step up complexity-wise from normal Codenames. The thinkiness of having to try and figure out the language while like checking what other people are doing with the clue cards and like, okay, so I think that symbol means sharp. So when the aliens come to draw some symbols on their pad saying, I want this item, you're sort of looking, well, I know that symbol, that means big. What's that other symbol? That symbol means danger. Okay, so big, dangerous. What's that other symbol? What could they mean? Could it be bright, beautiful? I don't know. That stuff is definitely a step up for people in terms of like thinkiness. It's also a little bit longer, I would say, than a typical Codenames game. Not by much. You can get a game of this done in about 45 minutes on easy mode without too much trouble. But if you play it on hard, it definitely outstays its welcome a little bit. It sort of goes beyond an hour easily, and you're like, okay, maybe 5 was a mistake. Now, there is a 0-turn variant you can use in this game, which allows you to get a clue word at the very start of the game. So the humans know exactly what 1 or 3, so it depends on the player count, but basically the humans know 1 symbol each at the start of the game. Don't play that in easy mode because it makes the game far too easy, but definitely play that if you're going to play this in hard mode, definitely without a shadow of a doubt. I cannot stress that enough. But what this game does do in terms of being, you know, is it a killer of Codenames, is the gameplay is just so much more fun. This is a great fun party game. You know, gameplay wise, I would play this hands down over Codenames any day. The interaction is great because this whole theme of the aliens trying to communicate with the Earthlings works so much better. There's no theme in Codenames, the spy thing and, oh no, I picked the assassin card. It's like, what? No, but this whole thing of, right, the aliens are trying to communicate with me and I need to offer them something. What do I do? Makes so much more sense. The banter is also so much better around the table because everybody is sort of saying to each other, right, I sort of get what you mean, but what on earth are you on about? Aliens are like, you know what, maybe it wasn't worth coming to this planet. These Earthlings are stupid.
You suck! Get a job!
You know, it's like everybody's just trash talking each other and having a good time with it. And the whole thinkiness of trying to decipher a code, effectively, is more interesting than just the simple Agent 2, you know, clue name thing for Codenames. Now, the game is not necessarily without some potential issues, I gotta admit. The balancing for the alien players is that you've got a red, blue, and a green player, that you could have up to 3 aliens. Now, everybody goes in turn order though. So technically, the red alien could win before the blue and green alien get a chance. You know, they could get their first 3 items offered before the other 2 take their turn for the round. To balance this, they essentially give the blue alien 1 extra thing to go for, and the green player another 2 things to go for. It's hit and miss as to whether that makes a decent amount of difference, though, in actual game. Certainly, I think the red player does get a little bit of a slight advantage over the other 2 alien players, but not a big deal. It's a party game, and I have seen it won by the green alien before, because if the humans offer an item that isn't the one that the green player was after, but it's still one that's on their sheet, they still get it. So there is a way for the green player to just get a couple by fluke. But certainly I think you would probably say, right, are you a bit new to this game? Are you a little bit uncertain? Right, how about you be the red alien player? Because you're going to get that slight turn advantage. I'll be the green alien player because I kind of know what I'm doing, and so I've got maybe a slightly bigger difficulty curve. All the Earthlings are on the same wavelength. They go in turn order, but the game is triggered on an alien player turn, so the humans haven't got to worry about this sort of thing. And they don't care which aliens they do. They just want the most benevolence tokens. They don't care if they all come from one alien or all the aliens. At the end of the day, as long as they're offering the right items, they're happy. Now, the game goes from 2 to 7 players. I definitely recommend this more as a 4 to 7 player game. Any player count in that range is pretty good. I think 5 is probably the sweet spot. So, you know, 3 humans and 2 aliens I think works pretty well. But the other player counts are fine, but when you play with 2 or 3 players, you have to essentially play this semi-co-op. Well, no, that's the wrong phrasing. It's essentially a co-op, but it's not entirely. Basically, all you have is like, oh, you got 2 Earthlings and 1 alien, and there's only like 1 set of cards. But in a 3-player game, you've only got the 2 humans, which doesn't seem like it's, you know, kind of worth it. But in a 2-player game, you're basically checking on a score chart to see how many items you've collected by the end of the game, and the result dictates how well you've done. So it is kind of a co-op game, but honestly, after trying them, I'm like, yeah, you know what? This game was never designed to be a small player game, nor was Codenames, frankly. Who plays Codenames with anything less than 6 players, really, these days? This is really a 4 to 7 player game, preferably a 5 to 7 player game, but 4 still works. I would play this with 4 fine, but I'm definitely thinking, can we get 1 or 2 more? Because that would be really good, you know, really good. Now, there's only the 25 words in the entire game, but that's not a big deal because the cards have been designed to work with them. There's one little rule I'm not the biggest fan of. It's an autonym. Was it an autonomy rule? I can't even pronounce it. How do you pronounce it? Autonym Rule. A-N-T-O-N-Y-M. Some English teacher will probably know more about that. But essentially, when you're writing the symbol on your pad, you could, if you want, put the symbol, but then put a line above it. A sort of horizontal line like that. So I hope that's coming out well on the camera, we'll have to see. But the problem with using this is that it does nerf a couple of words on here when you do the game. For example, you have got solid and liquid here. So if somebody puts down solid, they figured that out, and then the alien uses not solid, well, you know, okay, that's liquid. But then that kind of means you don't need to figure out what liquid is as a symbol, because you can just simply say not solid. There's a couple of other little examples where it has a bit like that, you know, I'm trying to think, you know, there's no like big and small though, and there's no bright and dark, but still there's just 1 or 2 where I'm like, maybe that opposite rule is not really needed, but it's a small variant, you don't even need to use it, so it's up to you whether you use it really. It doesn't break the game either way. But component-wise, you've got lots of dry erase boards. In fact, I noticed some people have not rubbed out certain things from the last game, so yeah, you do have to be careful of that. But you get dry erase pens, you get tokens. Everybody's got a nice little dry erase like mini pad to say which card they're picking in secret. That's really cool. You know, Codenames could probably do with that. But honestly, yeah, this game is just really solid. I was only heard about this game through Tom Bassel. He mentioned it on a top 10 list one time, and then that was the last I ever heard of it. This game originally, I think, came out in 2018. I think it got a reprint in 2020 maybe, or just like recently at the moment it sort of had a reprint. But yeah, seriously, this game is underrated and needs more love. Is it a direct replacement of Codenames? No, it's not. It's essentially, it's kind of, well, from a gameplay perspective, yes it is. I would hands down play this before Codenames any day. I'm done with Codenames. Codenames is done for me. And some of the bigger problems I have with Codenames is, 1, like the theme doesn't really work with it, but 2, in Codenames it's supposed to be a party game, but most of the time you're sat like this.
We're waiting.
Say something! People just sit there in silence, waiting for the clue giver to give a clue, because it's not easy to link those words. And then you have to wait ages while the team confers to do it, because the more people you have on the team, the longer the game takes, because you just cannot get 3 to 4 people to agree on something quickly. So that just drags that game out to me, or just ups the downtime too much. You've got very little to do when it's not your turn. Here, though, the turns are much better because you don't have that long stretch of silence, because usually it doesn't take too long to think of what symbols or what things you're going to do. It also has all the banter with the theme working, everybody sort of trash talking each other. But then even if it's not your turn, you are looking at what the other opponents are choosing, for like the other Earthlings are choosing. It's like, why have you picked those 5? Okay, could you have meant that? You've made that symbol, but I thought that symbol was that. And so you're thinking you're thinking about the code while someone else is taking their turn. And that's all great. That's all brilliant. And the alien players are obviously trying to think, well, okay, do the humans really know what they're doing here? But then the aliens are involved on every turn. Everybody's involved on every turn. So there's no real sense of downtime. Now, this game is solid. I really enjoy it. It's easily, I think, one of the best games I've played in this year, but like I say, it's not a 2022 game, unfortunately. Not flawless. I think it would have been nice if it was a little bit shorter, particularly if you played it on hard mode, and the balance is a little off, but that's not a huge deal. It'd be nice to see maybe more cards, because there's a decent amount of cards here, and they are double-sided, but, you know, would be nice to maybe see a few more in there over the times. You could expand this with a few other things, just don't jump the shark like Codenames is. I don't need a Simpsons First Contact or a Disney First Contact. But yeah, really enjoyed this. It's cheap as chips. You can buy this for a relatively low price, and honestly, I really enjoy it. Not flawless, but I'm giving this a 9 out of 10 with a seal of distinction. I think if you're into this kind of thing, you want something a bit more interesting than Codenames, or you want something that will play a good 5, 6, 7 player game relatively quick with a decent amount of interaction, lots of humor, I think this one will set you very well. You know, it's one of these hidden gems that I finally managed to discover, and it's staying on my shelf.
Well, that went okay. I tell you, when you know you can't scratch, that's when you really have to, huh? Oh, yeah. Oh, that feels a lot better. What? It's still on? Oh!
That's it for me on this video. If you like what you see, please remember to like the video, consider subscribing to the channel, maybe check out the Patreon campaign, but most of all, comment on the video. What are your thoughts on this? Do you enjoy Codenames? Have you burnt out on it? Does this sound more interesting? You got any questions? Let me know. Until next time, you can check out more content on the channel, including my ever popular top 10 worker placement games, or if you want me to try a little experimentation, you can check out my live review I did of Dice Theme Park, where I'm testing out a new format to get through certain games. Hit and miss at the moment, but I'd be interested to know your feedback. Take care, and remember, as always, it's only a game. Bye for now.